This is an organization made up of volunteers, and we are associated with the United States Small Business Administration, the SBA. We give counseling. Now, to become a counselor in SCORE, by the way, there are some 13,000 of us in the United States, in 300 different offices. In order to become a counselor, you have to have managed or been a senior executive at a major business. We don't count master's degrees, or we don't count formal education. We consider the education to run a business primarily is running a business. This is voluntarily. It is totally confidential and free, and to a degree I call it almost industrial psychiatry. You can come in and speak to a counselor with no appointment at 26 Federal Plaza, or you can look it up online at scorenyc.org, New York City, or scorenewyorkcity.org. There are all types of seminars that we give, counseling. You can write in, and you will get a response from a counselor in New York City or some other location. One thing that goes on, those of you who are not familiar with an American educational system, we are different from most foreign educational systems in that we interact with the teacher. It's not that the teacher talks and we write down the notes and the teacher's up on a pedestal. We depend, and I will depend upon you to come back if you don't understand something, or if you'd like a further explanation, because I can't really tell what your problems are. You have to tell me. I won't ask you what business you're interested in, because some people feel this is confidential and they don't want anybody to know. When I'm finished, I will offer personal counseling in one of these rooms here, where we can talk privately on any subject that you feel that you want further clarification. If I don't have the technical knowledge, well, then I will refer you to one of our counselors who does. My experience as a SCORE counselor, I've been doing it for some 17 or 18 years in New York City. I've counseled over 2,000 people, everyone ranging from a funeral parlor in Harlem to a dog walker in Queens to helping a woman buy a children's modeling agency. We don't know the technology of your business. If you don't know your technology, we can't help you. There are certain business principles which apply, and that's where we can help you. Any questions? I'm going to go ripping right through and let you out early. I'm going to deal with first what I call common questions. Over the years, by the way, I've also traveled for USAID, Agency for International Development, for 5 years, everywhere from Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan to Bangkok, Thailand. So I'm accustomed to working, one, with interpreters, number two, working with people with different cultures. The culture is perhaps the most difficult thing to overcome. My first assignment was in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. I don't know if anybody knows where that is. It's on the Chinese-Kazakhstan border. I didn't even know where it was when I got the assignment. And it took me a few weeks to realize these people didn't know what the word sales meant. It seems hard to believe, but under the former Soviet system, there, quote, were no sales. And sales are the key. Well, I'll back up a little bit. Nobody has ever come to me with a bad idea. Isn't that amazing? 2,000 clients and nobody has a bad idea. The ideas are not the problem. The problem is communicating those ideas to people and getting their money. Now, what's interesting, we keep talking about getting somebody's money. Sounds kind of gross. I don't know if any of you remember Coca-Cola came out quite a few years ago with a new Coke. It lasted exactly 79 days, and they had to pull it from the market. nobody would buy it. Nobody knows why. Coca-Cola knows more about market testing and the marketplace than anybody else. They do focus groups, they do taste tests, they do all the things that you're supposed to. It didn't work. Before that, the Ford Motor Car Company came out with a car called the Edsel, named after Henry's son or grandson. How much did it cost Ford to put out a whole new car? Millions. It lasted 4 years and they had to pull it. Nobody would buy it. We don't know why. Every year, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Lever Brothers come out with new products, half of them fail. We don't know what we're doing. No matter how sophisticated we are, we don't know what we're doing. What we have to do is try. We're trying. And the danger that you have starting a business is you become in love with your beautiful baby. Well, what we have to find out is whether you have a beautiful baby or an ugly brat. And you're your own worst enemy. Now, the reason we need money to do that is because we fail so many times. And if we don't know what we're doing and we fail, how are we going to pay for those? You will, in your search to starting a new business, hear of all types of money availability. Various government loans. By the way, the SBA does not lend money. They guarantee loans made by banks. There are co-op groups, there are grants, there are all kinds of things. But in all cases, you have to pay this money back. Do we know the difference between a loan and an investment? Well, some people don't. They confuse it, especially when they are dealing with friends or family. They confuse a loan is something such as made by a bank, which is a fixed amount of money, which is lent for a fixed amount of time, and it has to be returned by a certain date and pay a certain interest. Now, whether the person who gets the loan makes another Google or not, or the thing goes through the roof, the lender doesn't participate. He only gets back the amount that he lent. Now let's take the investor. The investor is gambling. He's just gambling. He's saying, this is a wonderful idea, and I'm going to, if I buy certain stock, percentage of stock in this company, I'm going to be a millionaire. Now, when does the investor get paid back? Never. The investor is hoping that this stock that he put money into will go through the roof and he will sell it to somebody else. So when you speak to your family and your friends, and you will borrow and invest from your family and friends, you have to be sure that they understand what is an investment, and you're never going to pay them back. They're hoping that you have a Google and they're going to sell it to somebody else. Clear? Very important that you know this, because you have a moral responsibility when you're dealing with your family and friends. And you can't forget it. I had people walk into and ask questions. We haven't the vaguest idea what they're talking about until they talk. This young lady came in and wanted to buy a gas station in North Carolina. Oh, have you ever managed a gas station? No. How did you find this gas station? On the internet. Have you ever looked at it? No. How much does he want for it? $100,000. Have you ever seen financial statements? You know anything about the company? No. But I think it'd be a good business. Well, you're going to borrow $100,000? No. Where are you going to get? You have that? No. Where did you get this money? I'm going to get it from my parents. Oh, your parents are wealthy? Oh no, they're first-generation immigrants. You mean to say you're going to risk their entire life saving on this gas station? So beware. Okay, I'm going to start on common questions. The first one is legal identities. Now, you're going to be taking a risk. And no matter what happens, you're going to have your personal signature on any money that you receive. So if you don't pay it back, Let's say you have assets, you have real estate, you have an apartment that you own, you have stocks, you have bonds. The government says, in order for you to take this risk, we have to shield your other assets. So we will form this legal identity, in most cases called a corporation, so that if something goes wrong, somebody trips and falls, your private money will not be taken away. The first example, and the simplest, is what's called a sole proprietorship. This does not give you any legal protection. It allows you to assume a fictitious name, register it with the state. It gives you no protection, but you can open up a bank account. You can open up a P.O. box. By the way, you never want to give out your home address or your home telephone number. You're dealing with a wonderful world out there with some very bad people. So you want a post office box, which will cost you something. Say again, please.
What if it's a home business?
Doesn't make any difference. You are not required. Well, let's describe it. Let's say you live in an apartment house. You have a lease to rent that space. That space, that lease, only allows you to live there. It doesn't, quote, allow you to do business. And nobody cares. Unless, of course, you start having a lot of people coming in. If a lot of people come in to do business, somebody of your neighbors is going to complain. And they can say, stop doing business, you're not allowed under the law. Okay? But don't spend money. You're not going to have enough of it, no matter what you have. If you can do it in your apartment, you start. The worst that can happen is nobody's going to put you in jail. They're going to say, stop. The reason you want a P.O. box, and you see these post office boxes all over, cost you $40 or $50 a month. You have an address that you can receive and send packages and mail. Many of these post offices give a street. Don't worry if you're listing P.O. box. Some people I see, especially the internet people, don't list any address. They give you a website. I get very scared. What do you mean you don't have an address? You have a website and it's based in Yugoslavia? How am I going to find you if something is wrong? So in all your advertising, you want to list a post office box, which is the safest thing, so people know you physically exist somewhere. Okay, so that sole proprietorship costs you $120. You have a sheet. You can go in and there's a certain form that you fill out that you have to buy. It's on this sheet on how to form a New York State corporation. This gives you no protection. It gives you no legal protection. However, it gives you can have a bank account under that name. You can sell under that name. You have all the appearances of a business organization. A partnership is another magical word. Partnership. I get terrified of partnerships. Business is a dictatorship. A partnership might be with your spouse, but it's not in business. There has to be somebody who is the dictator, is the boss. No matter what happens, quote, in an equal partnership, things might start off beautifully. Somewhere along the line, there's a disagreement. And most of the times in a partnership, one partner will say, okay, we'll do it your way. But it could hit the point where they're going like that, I must have it. If you have a situation like that with a 50-50% partnership, all you're doing is looking forward to some lawyer putting his kid through Harvard. You're going to end up in court. And I can tell you in business, don't go to court, you'll lose. Corporations. Corporation, you can file yourself on the internet, NewYorkState.gov corporations. It costs you something like $200. You have a legal corporation. Yes, sir?
You're saying you're speaking about filing for a corporation, it's about $200, you said, right?
Yeah.
If I took it to like say an attorney or a CPA or something like that, would the price be the same? Or
Depends on how much he can get you for. If you deal directly with the state, you can do it for about $200 on the internet. If you find some attorney who likes to, who's got a new son, he wants to put through Harvard, you're going to spend I don't know how much money. It's your call. If you're not smart enough to fill out the paperwork on the internet, you better go home, because you're not smart enough to run a business. Now you take a risk. You're saying, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. Welcome to the club. You must understand, we don't know what we're doing. Coca-Cola doesn't know what they're doing. Pepsi-Cola doesn't know what they're doing. The Ford doesn't know what they're doing. That's why we have to make a profit. Of course, we try things, because that's who we are. We have this fire in our belly, and we want to do it, which is why you're here. You're going to want to do something. So, when you start your business, it's a question of your baby. And what you have to do is you test whether you have a beautiful baby or an ugly brat. And the only way you test is by going to the marketplace and trying to get somebody to pay you for it. And that's where the trouble starts. So, when you start, we assume, we don't know, nobody's ever come to me with a bad product. Isn't that amazing? 2,000 clients in 17 years, clients all over the world, they all have wonderful products. Why do most of them fail? I don't know. But what you want to do is say, I want to test my beautiful baby theory. How much money are you ready to lose?
10,000?
That sounds like a decent number. 10,000 is a reasonable number for most. I have people come in and say $500. I say, go have a nice life, goodbye. You can't do it. 10,000. How many months?
6 months.
6 months. It's a little long. You should really know pretty well in 3 or 4 months, no matter what it is. Either you get orders or you don't get orders. It's as simple as that. So let's say 4 months, we'll compromise, has gone by, and you spent your $10,000 and it's still not moving. What are you going to do then? You're going to invest another $10,000. You're going to beg, borrow, or steal it. And you're going to take, I need another 4 months. You're going to say, I'll give you another 5 months. 5 months and $20,000. 9 months, you're being carried longer than your mother did. What happens at the end of 9 months and $20,000? And it's still not off the ground? You got an ugly baby. And you find another baby. Because that's who you are. You don't have any control over this. It's built in. There are those who sit back and take a check every Friday or whatever it is. And there are those who have this thing that they want to do. Well, this is a wonderful country. You do not need a license for the majority of businesses. You do not need a corporation. You don't need anything but how to get sales. There are certain businesses that need licenses by the city or by the state or by the federal government, mostly having to do with public health and safety. You can't start making food in your kitchen and selling it just like that. It's illegal, and they will stop you because you can hurt people. So let's say you form the corporation, you want to shield it, you feel better. For $200, I want to make a corporation. The corporation is a legal identity, and you have to file with the Internal Revenue Service at the end of the year profits or losses that you've made. You file with them. There's something that you will hear. By the way, let me back off. As you get into this mess, somebody's going to start talking to you about an LLC. Somebody else is going to start talking to you about making a corporation in Delaware. Tell whoever it is who's saying this, tell them to please walk out of your life because they don't know what they're talking about. An LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation. There are various reasons for it, having to do with group practices. If you do it in New York State, and by the way, you've got to do it in New York State because that's where you live and that's where you're doing business. Don't figure that you can do it in Nevada or Yugoslavia. You've got to do it right here in New York because that's where you live. It's what's called your locus. It's right here. Where was I now? if you file on an LLC in New York, what you don't hear about is that you've got to place between $1,000 and $2,000 worth of advertising in newspapers.
So you wouldn't recommend that?
Not only wouldn't I recommend it, I'd say go home and get in the closet. You won't. There are very few business decisions that are so clear-cut. That's one. If you want a corporation, get online, NewYorkState.gov corporations, and fill it out for a couple of $100, and you are totally protected. So that's an LLC, and that's a plain corporation. Any questions? You don't need it. I ask the clients regularly, do you own stock? Do you own real estate? Do you have any assets? Majority of them have none. So, you go into business with no corporation, somebody slips and falls, and they have an uncle who just graduated Harvard Law, and they come over and they say, we're going to sue you. You say, go ahead. I don't own anything. I've done that. Go away. Go make an honest living. You can't touch it. Go ahead, sue me.
No one will sue you. You're for nothing.
Pardon?
No one
There's
will
nothing.
sue you. Yeah.
When they find out you got nothing, they'll go away.
Yeah.
Go make an honest living somewhere. Okay, federal ID and tax number. You're going to get this when you file. If you do a sole proprietorship, for your federal ID, you use your Social Security number. You don't have to file. Tax is different. If you sell, now you're worried about New York State sales tax. If you sell a product to somebody who's going to actually be the user of it, in most cases you have to charge New York State sales tax. These people are worse than the IRS. You have to collect it, and every quarter, whether you collected any sales tax or not, you have to file with the sales tax department of the New York State and send in the form which says 0 if you didn't collect it. Now, if you don't, one day somebody will walk in, maybe knock on your door, maybe not, and throw a padlock on your door and throw you in jail. They are really nasty people. Now, one of the things that's going to happen, especially with internet companies, if you don't have a physical presence, but you're on the internet, the state tax law, and I'm only going to talk about New York State because each state is different, and you must comply with New York State law because you're in New York State. Anybody not? Okay. You must comply with the law. New York State law says you must charge sales tax to somebody who's going to use it for most products like clothing, most products, not services. If you don't, you're in real trouble. So investigate that carefully. Now, when you register with the state, and this New York State sales tax, you will get what's called a resale certificate, a number. Now, let's say you're making jewelry and selling it on the internet. This is standard kind of thing. Well, number one, when you buy the gold, the person who sells you the gold is going to charge you sales tax. So you're going to waive your resale certificate and say, I don't pay sales tax to you. Oh, okay, that's perfectly all right. When you turn around and you sell it on the internet and you deliver it somewhere in New York State, you must charge sales tax. If you deliver it on the internet, or for that matter, any of your sales made out of state, you do not have to charge sales tax. Questions? Okay. So that's your federal ID and tax number. Let's talk about patents, trademarks, and copyrights. I have 9 patents. Never made a nickel on any of them. The majority of people don't make any money on patents. It's an ego trip. The purpose of patents, all countries have it, and the patent law is specific by country. It's not where you can buy a European patent. It's a US patent, it's a Swiss patent, it's a Chinese patent. They all cover their own laws and one doesn't cover another one. Now, the purpose of a patent, why does the government have each government has these patent laws? The purpose of the patent law is to gather in one spot and clearly file solutions to problems, primarily engineering problems. You can't patent an idea. You can only patent something that does something. And it's got to be original. For instance, I once filed for a patent on a rocket. And the patent office turned down one of the patent claims, showed a picture taken at Fort McHenry during the Civil War of a rocket. They say, you can't file, it's been anticipated. So your idea cannot be written or publicly disclosed anywhere in the world at any time. Furthermore, it can't be obvious to what's called somebody skilled in the art. You can't take it to a shoemaker and he say, oh yeah, I know how to do that. I would recommend you don't waste your time. Because people say, they walk in and they have all kinds of patents. I'm dealing with a lady now who's wheelchair bound. She's broken the appointment to visit me at least 4 times because she can't get in the snow. And she's got something to help people do something with wheelchairs. Now what are you going to, let's say there is something. There is something there. What is the procedure that she's got to do? Well, the first thing that she's got to do is do what's called a patent search. You can go to New York Civil Library, Madison Avenue, 34th Street, and the first thing you want to find out is what category this product is. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with library Dewey Decimal System. If you look for a book of a certain type, it's filed under a physical system called Dewey Decimal, and they'll say go to that shelf, to that position. So that's what the patent will do. It will organize all these different ideas as to what classification is. You can go to the Civil Library. They're very good. They will help you, and you'll look up and see what classification your idea is. Then you can do a simple search online for nothing. Let's say you don't find that. Let's say you find something, which is pretty obviously the same thing. Go out and have a cup of coffee because you're wasting your time. Go get another idea. Let's say you don't find anything. What do you do then? Now the trouble starts. You've got to hire a patent attorney. Now, as soon as you start going public with that you're an inventor, there you will find more sharks, charlatans, and crooks than you believe possible. You'll get all these people writing you saying, I will help you, quote, market it. I will help you, I will help you, I will help you. Run, go to the closet and slam the door. They're crooks. There's very few things that I can talk about where I can generally say they're crooks. They're crooks. They want your money and they might give you a list of they get from any kind of system. So you have to, how do you find a patent attorney? It's not somebody's nephew. If you don't know a patent attorney, it's not a regular attorney, it's a patent attorney. It's got to be licensed, registered with the United States Patent Office. You can also do what's called a patent agent. And we're going to, he's cheaper and might work for you. But he's got to be registered. Now, you present your idea to him, he says, oh, that's very nice. I have to do a patent search. Oh, how much is the patent search? Somewhere between $2,000 and $10,000. Not less. $2,000 and $10,000. When he finishes the patent search, he will come back, and the best you can hope for is he will say, it's possible to get a patent. Not I can get a patent. I don't see anything out there. Pay me my $2,000 or $10,000. So they say, okay, what do we do now? Now we file. Oh, really? How much does that cost and when do I get the patent? Filing a patent and getting it granted is anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. And you got to pay it, or you don't have it. And it'll take something like 18 months. Now, let's say this wheelchair lady has plenty of money. And let's say she pays the money and has the patent. How does she sell the product? How does she get somebody to pay her? Can she start manufacturing wheelchairs? Of course not. She's got this patent. What does she do with it? How does she get somebody to pay her for it? Now we get the problem. Now you start to figure out who might be interested in this patent. It could be a wheelchair manufacturer. It could be somebody who sells medical devices. It could be almost anybody in the chain. It could be as you walk along the street, you see certain drugstores that not only sell drugs, they sell apparatus for unhealthy people. You can get lists of all these things, and you mail them. And you mail them the following letter. Attached is patent application number blah, 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 blah. I am interested in licensing this patent application. And you address it to the legal department of this company. If you don't get somebody to come back and say, I'm interested, throw it out. You've wasted your money. This is a very discouraging way to look at patents, but quite frankly, it doesn't work too often. People go through it anyway. Patents, trademarks, and copyrights. I'll talk about copyrights and trademarks. People get infatuated with a name. And they want to, quote, protect it. What the copyright is, the object. And the best object is, I don't know if you, maybe before you, the Kodak yellow box with film. Kodak, that was so unique that Kodak got a trademark on the yellow box to sell film. Now what the trademark is, it's a reminder. It comes after the customer, a potential customer has seen, knows about this. If you looked at the Coca-Cola emblem, which is a beautiful thing, and you didn't know Coca-Cola, you'd say, that's very beautiful, but so what? So really, there is no value to the trademark and the copyright until you have exposed it to the marketplace and you want people to remember you and think about it. You must protect it. The word motel was a copywritten name. Beautiful name. The guy had a copyright. It was such a good name that everybody started to use it. And in order, if you don't defend your copyright, patent, trademark, you lose your rights. The government isn't going to defend it. So he had to start suing everybody to stop using it. It got to be so expensive he gave up. You can go use the word motel now. Anybody can. He lost the right to use it. I would recommend at this stage, stay away from patents, copyrights, or licensing. Attorneys and accountants. Ooh. Let's talk accounting first. What is accounting and why? Well, people think about it, it's for taxes. It's not necessarily for taxes. We have in business have created a language that we can look at some papers with some numbers on them and understand what's happening with the business. Understand why we're losing money, why we're making money, what's going on. We use numbers in their pure Arabic sense, their symbols. Bill Cosby is giving a skit, was giving a skit on teaching arithmetic to kindergartens. And he says, all right kids, today we're going to learn arithmetic. I got one apple in this hand and one apple in this hand. What is that? That's 2 apples. Yeah, teach, yeah, teach. I got one orange in this hand, one orange in this hand, it's 2 oranges, right? Yeah, teach, yeah, teach. Everybody understand arithmetic? The little kid puts his hand in. Yeah, what's your question? What's a 1? What is a 1? A 1 in accounting tells us what happens. So, accounting is not something for the accountant to do and say you owe this much money. accounting. Now, I'm not suggesting that you become accountants. What I am suggesting is that you start to understand the role of accounting. And when you start your business, it's very simple. But I'm assuming you're going to be successful. It's going to grow. It's going to hit the point where you've got to try and figure out what you did right and what you're doing wrong. Because you're always doing something right. You're always doing something wrong. You've got to find out what that is and do more or less or fix it. So that's an accountant. Accountant should not be a lot of money. One of the things that you'll hear about an accounting system called QuickBooks. I happen to be against it because there are certain basic things where if you don't know, it's based on what's called general ledger numbers, where you break down things in certain ways. QuickBooks' main claim to fame is you can do whatever you want. But when you start a business, you don't know what you want. You don't know what it should look like. I recommend you get something called Dome Accounting at some place like Staples. It's a ledger book. And you write in it what goes on, everything that you buy, everything that you sell. And you will learn by looking at this what's going on in your business. Questions? Okay, I'll keep... Pardon?
Sorry, excuse me. So you don't recommend QuickBooks?
No, because QuickBooks, the wonderful thing about QuickBooks is you can do whatever you want with it. But what do you want? You don't know enough to know what you want. I don't mean to put you down. It's just you're starting in business, and it's a language. You've got to know the language of these numbers and what they're about. The Dome Accounting, which you spend $10 or $20 for, the way it's laid out, you fill in the numbers, and it's in the proper form, and as you do it after a while, you will learn the system, and you will learn what's going on. Otherwise, you'll spend time on QuickBooks, and it's been my experience that people doesn't teach them anything. However, it's your business, and you try things. Don't let anybody stop you from trying. All I'm suggesting is beware. Be aware that maybe you're wrong. Well, let's try it. The only question is, if we're wrong, how much money will we lose? That's the only question. How much money are we ready to take at risk? Attorneys. My pet peeve. The problem that I find with attorneys is they give you business advice. Now, an attorney by profession is what's called risk adverse. He doesn't want you to take any risks, because if you take a risk, you might lose, and then you're going to have a lawsuit. But then again, what he wants you to do is keep your head under the covers, stay under the covers long enough just to slip out an arm with his bill, with a check for his bill. You have to take a risk. They give business advice. They're not qualified to give business advice because they are risk adverse. They don't want you to take risk, and you're going to take, but I'm going to take the risk. The purpose of a contract, by the way, no long business deal. The purpose of a contract is to explain to both parties what they're expected to do and what happens if they don't do it. Normally a contract can be 1 page. Attorneys used to be paid by the word. So they write something for 10 pages and get a big bill. Your contracts should be extremely simple. What am I supposed to do? What is he supposed to do? What happens if they don't perform? In most cases, you won't need a contract. You're going to depend on the reputation of this other person who you have to check. Regularly we have people coming in, internet people, where are you going to buy your merchandise? I'm going to buy it overseas. All kinds of countries sell it. Well, how do you buy it overseas? What are you going to get? You're going to have to pay in advance. You don't know this person at the other end of the line. You're going to pay in advance, and then it'll come the crate with defective merchandise or with nothing in it. So you really have to know the people you do business with. For customers, there's something called credit. When do you say to the buyer, pay me with the order, pay me in advance, pay me when you receive it, or pay me in 30 or 60 days? Credit is something that is given on the basis of history. And it is necessary. You can start when you buy. The problem is probably the seller will say, pay me in advance or pay me on delivery. You can start that way. But as time goes on, you're going to have to say, look, we know each other. I've been doing business with you for a long time. I want to pay you in 30 days. I've got a history with you now. I will pay you in 30 days, and if you don't take it, I'll take my business elsewhere. Paying under credit terms is a way you have to borrow. You're borrowing from the seller's account. He's funding it. It is something that you have to, it's an individual case on how it works. I would be extremely careful of anything you buy online. Somebody who might be in Yugoslavia, there's an awful lot of fraud going on, and there's no way you can collect an online company. You buy something from an online company, forget it. You don't know where they are. You don't know what jurisdiction they're under. You don't know anything. Stock ownership. Well, let's assume you form a corporation. Corporation is a legal identity in that state. By the way, if you're, let's say, in your New York State, you can sell anywhere in the United States. Let's just deal with the United. You can sell anywhere in the world, but you can sell anywhere in the United States. And if you're not selling in New York State, you just sell them. Whether you advance them credit, you don't charge them sales tax. So now it becomes the question is, at what point, well, I think I'm going to skip that actually. Let's go on and go to, by the way, any questions? Questions that you might have, I will be available after I'm finished here, and I'll talk for I don't know how much longer. When I've said enough, somebody yelled enough, and then I'll step down, otherwise I'll just keep talking. Let's say you've got a corporation, and you've been in business for a year or two, and you're very successful. One of the problems I have with the formal MBA programs, and you've probably heard of, quote, a business plan. Everybody says the business plan. I used to counsel to NYU, Columbia, Peru, MBA programs, and they wanted this part of a business plan. And the business plan showed a projection of a certain point, and then they had what they call an exit strategy, which means the purpose of going into business is to build it up and sell it to somebody. I objected to that because business people, real business people, are not building up a business to sell it and go to Bermuda. They're building a business because that's who they are. They're entrepreneurs. By the way, nobody can define the word entrepreneur. You can't really figure out what is an entrepreneur. My definition is somebody who sees a problem, sees a solution, and connects them. But you do it because that's who you are. And the idea that you're building this up to sell it, I am totally against. This is a personal feeling because I don't think it's a true entrepreneur. So now you become a minor Google. You got some various people to invest in your corporation, and it's on the way up. And you say, well, I think I want to get a big chunk of money now. I'm going to see everybody's successful. I'm going to do an IPO, initial public offering. I'm going to try and sell this to the gang on Wall Street or somebody like that. Let me back off on that. Let's say you need capital. Whatever you need, you borrowed from your family, you borrowed from your friends, you borrowed as much as you can get, but you don't have enough money to start off. There's a series of, you want to go borrow or get an investor, not borrow. Because when you borrow, people will ask you for collateral. Collateral is something that if you don't pay me, I can sell it and get my loan back. But for an investment, they're merely saying, you're going to go through the roof and I want to resell it. So where do you get this money from? The first thing is called angel investors. Angel investors. This is a group of people who lend up to $500,000 for startups when you got nothing but this idea. So you have to present a business plan to them. By the way, SCORE can help you write your business plan if you want. There is no charge for anything that SCORE does. If you are assigned a counselor and you don't like him or her, you say, have a nice life, goodbye, give me another nut. But anybody that you are assigned has gone through this himself or herself. So how do you find an angel investor? Well, you go to Google and you look up angel investors New York City. How many do you think Google will come back with? How many listings? By the way, do you all know when you go to Google, up in the top corner, there's a little small number in faint print, which tells you how many times Google has found. Google, it's interesting. I'm going to give you some numbers which I've made up to describe it. They're not real. It's one of the problems with selling on it. People say, I'm going to have a website. Good. There are 5.2 million square miles in Siberia. 48% covered by trees. I don't know how many trees. That's a lot of trees. When Google started, did everybody know what the word bots means in times of Google? Google has developed these, what they call robots, that prowl the internet and look for keywords that you put in your search. And they're called bots. When Google first started, their bots covered 25% of the entire world internet, which meant when you put in certain words in the search command, Google has a formula for how they go looking and assigning priorities to it. Now Google probably tracks 75% of every web page there is. So when you put in a request for something, Google prioritizes based on an algorithm that they have developed, the name, some of them you pay for, and generally what you're looking for is on page 37. So that's what happens when you're trying to find something on Google. I'll close by talking about risk aversion. Regularly it happens with people in the computer industry. They don't go out and speak to the world. They speak to their computer. And they keep doing research on the computer. And one of the things when you're starting a company, you're always doing research. The question is, when do I stop doing research and go out in the world? Nobody can tell you. But I can tell you there is a tendency, especially for those who are not quite familiar with the world, there is a tendency to say, I need more research. The question is, do they ever go out and speak to a customer? Let's say you've got this whole thing ready. How do you test market? How do you go see if you can get an order? How do you go physically talk to somebody? You've got to talk to somebody and get their money, or at least get their opinion. Understand when you ask somebody and then you say, is this a good idea? Everybody will say yes. especially people you know. Nobody will say it's a lousy idea. So you've got to go out and test market it yourself and see if you can get a feel for what's truly going on. Now you get what's called, where is this that I'm looking for? Marketing. Let me touch on marketing. Wonderful word. It's what everything is all about, is getting in order. There's a difference between the word marketing and the word sales. They're really people use the word marketing because it's a lot fancier than just sales, but they're really different. Sales is actually speaking to the customer and getting his money. The question is, how do you get to the customer? He's not standing there waiting for you. How do you define who your customer is? Well, the first problem is defining who your customer is. There's confusion between the word customer and the word user. In most cases, the people we deal with, our customers, are not the users. Let's take Budweiser beer. 500,000 beer bellies, probably more. 50 million beer bellies in the United States. Not one of them is a customer of Budweiser. They don't give Budweiser any money. The one whose money you get is the customer. So who are Budweiser's customers? They're taverns, they're supermarkets, they're restaurants. The people who buy it and resell it. The difficulty we have in business is the cost of reaching the customer and making our pitch. It's called the cost of customer acquisition. The first thing is defining the customer. Who is my customer? Number two, what does she want? You've got to come up and give her something that she wants. She may not know what she wants. Some people say you create the need. You can't do it with a small company. You want to go in and present something, and she says, yeah, I want that. Who is my customer? What does she want? Number three, how much will she pay? There's a tendency to cut the price. Well, that may not be the answer. Regularly it isn't. There's Tiffany selling diamond rings for $10,000, and 3 blocks south is selling the same ring for $7,000. It's the perceived value. Do not cut your price until you know it makes a difference. I can also tell you in bargaining, the first one who names the price loses. It's a funny thing. If you're buying or you're selling, let's say you're selling and the customer, potential customer says, well, how much is it? You say, well, gee, I don't really know. I'm new in this business. How much do you think it would be worth? They come up with a number. Whatever number they come up with, you cry. It's not enough. You have no idea. It's a game. But it is not, who is my customer? What does she want? How much will she pay? 4, what message do I give to her to get her to buy or switch? This is called the elevator pitch. You've probably heard it. You've got 20 seconds, depending upon the speed of the elevator, to say what it is you're selling and why they should buy it. You're on the elevator, somebody steps on, and what do? And while you're talking, they get off. You're at a cocktail party, and somebody says, and what do? And while you're talking, the blonde walks by. It's always a blonde. She's very busy. And you've just lost your customer, man or woman. They're looking at the blonde. So you've got 20 seconds. That is really hard to do, what it is you're selling and why they should buy it. You've got to know that. And then finally we come, what media do I use to deliver my message? This is the kicker. It is not word of mouth. It is not word of mouth. It is not even viral marketing. People have other things to do. There is a certain group, primarily on age, that are highly subject to viral marketing. There are certain viral marketing techniques, LinkedIn, where you have people in business, same type of business. Let's take 2 examples of media. Little guy in Hoboken, New Jersey makes camping tents. It's him, his wife, and his sister-in-law with a sewing machine. How do you sew Camping tents in Hoboken, New Jersey. I don't even know where it is. Stand on the street corner, hand out literature. Put an ad in the Hoboken News. Go to bus stops, subway stops, and hand out literature. Give talks at churches. None of them work because the number of people who are getting your media, the percentage of them that are potential customers is too small. You pay for delivering to the entire group, and of that entire group, only a small percentage are potential customers. You've got to find a media that is targeted. More is no good. Less is better. It doesn't do you any good to get a customer in Yugoslavia. You want to get your call. What does he do? He finds a magazine called Outdoor Living. Circulation of only 200,000, which means it doesn't cost much. He can keep placing a classified ad for $50 a month, and he'll start building up clientele until finally, well, he's doing pretty well. He's going to add knapsacks and pay $100 a month. And as time goes on, he's going to keep adding products. I don't know what products he had for camping. I'm a city boy. And until finally, he's got a full-page ad. He's got a website. He's doing e-commerce. And he's got himself a business based on finding the media. You can't sell it to stores. They don't know him. Let's take another guy. This is the last one. Because I'm really leaving sales for the last. It's the most important. People just think because they got a beautiful idea, it's enough. If you can't figure out a way to communicate your idea to people, you don't have a business. So let's take the last guy who gets a bargain in telescopes. Beautiful telescope designed to sell for $1,500. He gets a bargain because the manufacturer fouled up and it'll only look 4 miles. Where do you sell a $1,500 telescope that looks only 4 miles? Very smart guy. He goes to American Express Platinum card holders. By the way, you can buy a list of nearly anything from mailing list brokers. It's something like $1 a head. Any crazy thing you want, they'll be able to sell it to you. And they guarantee the percentage. So he goes ahead and he gets the list, zip code sorted, north of 34th Street, south of 86th Street, and east of the park. He gets 5,000 names of theoretically wealthy people. 4,000 are really wealthy, 1,000 are phonies, but that's okay. So he spent $5,000. Why does he pick that group? Well, if they're wealthy and they live in that neighborhood, they probably live high up. And if they live high up, they may have a view of the river or the park. And if they've got a view of the river or the park, they can use my telescope. What media does he use? He makes his own media. He takes beautiful pictures of the views from the park and the river and blah, 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 all the views that you get with this telescope in it. And he prints a 4-color brochure at $3 a piece. He mails them at $1 a piece. He spends $25,000 and he gets a 1.5% return. People think that all this junk mail they get is junk. No, it's paying for it. The cost is so low, it pays 1 or 2%. Okay, any questions? I am available for personal counseling if you want, and I'm done.